imperfect times.
The movie begins with a crew of astronauts embarking on a journey to Mars with Patrick, the lead astronaut. Upon arrival, Patrick steps out of the spacecraft, ceremoniously plants the American flag, stands tall with pride, and begins to gather samples of Martian soil.
Not for one creed, but for all humankind.
This historic event is broadcast live for the world to see. Meanwhile, in a mental institution, a man watches the mission's progress with a look of utter despair.
I told him not to go! I told him!
As the mission appears to be wrapping up, the astronauts prepare for their return to Earth. However, a troubling discovery is made. One of the samples begins to thaw. Suddenly, the container shatters violently, releasing an organism that oozes out and flows toward the crew, eventually bursting outward.
3, 2, 1.
Despite this alarming event, the astronauts proceed with their journey home. Back on Earth, the scene shifts to a secure laboratory where a woman named Eve is restrained in a chair, enclosed within a glass cage. Dr. Laura Baker, a scientist, leads the current operation, conducting experiments on Eve to uncover weaknesses in her biology that could help humanity defend against future alien threats.
Eve was recreated from a frozen lab embryo.
As part of the testing, toxic gas fills the cage, causing Eve to scream in agony and plead for Laura's assistance. Initially, the experiment seems successful as Eve's body is covered in wounds. The military official observing the test is satisfied until those wounds heal almost instantly, showcasing Eve's alien adaptability. After the test, Eve reflects on her existence as a test subject, reminding Laura of her humanity.
Just don't forget that I'm human too.
The astronauts return safely to Earth and are immediately subjected to a series of preliminary tests while excited onlookers observe. Thankfully, the crew is found to be in perfect health, but they are advised to abstain from sexual activity for the next 10 days as a precaution. During a celebratory fundraiser hosted by Senator Ross, who happens to be Patrick's father, Patrick decides to ignore the medical advice. He engages in a passionate kiss with a groupie. Suddenly called to the stage for a speech, he hastily makes his way up. On stage, Patrick reflects on the surreal experience of being on Mars, mentioning how small and fragile Earth appeared, almost as if it could be easily destroyed.
I thought to myself how easy it would be to destroy all that God has created.
Later, Patrick heads to his hotel room where he finds Marcy, the woman from the party, waiting with her sister Lucy. The night takes a heated turn as Patrick engages in an intimate encounter with both women. Unbeknownst to him, Eve, who remains in the lab, seems to be telepathically linked to Patrick, her heart rate escalating with the intensity of his actions.
Jeez, someone hit a home run?
As the night progresses, Marcy excuses herself to the bathroom. While Patrick continues with Lucy, Marcy starts to feel intense discomfort in her stomach. Suddenly, she realizes she is in labor, her abdomen grotesquely swelling as the accelerated alien pregnancy progresses at an alarming rate. Panic-stricken, she struggles with the pain. In the bedroom, what began as Lucy's dream turns into a nightmare. Patrick's primal alien DNA takes over, and tentacles sprout from his back. Despite Lucy's desperate pleas for him to stop, Patrick, overtaken by his alien instincts, continues his assault. Meanwhile, in the bathroom, Marcy's belly splits open, and a horrifying alien-human hybrid baby bursts forth. Back in the lab, Eve's excitement reaches a climax, her connection to Patrick amplifying her emotions to a dangerous level. Following the shocking events, Patrick takes his two new hybrid sons to a secluded cabin, Later, he confronts his father, Senator Ross. Patrick, feeling unwell and struggling to remember anything after the fundraiser, seeks his father's advice. The senator bluntly tells him to toughen up and chides him for his reckless behavior.
I'm scared. God damn it. Quit acting like a spoiled child.
The scene shifts to Dr. Urinsky, one of the Mars mission scientists. Urinsky has been analyzing Patrick's blood and is alarmed to see the alien DNA rapidly taking over. Before he can relay his findings to Cromwell, a beaker containing Patrick's blood tips over and shatters on its own. The blood, seemingly sentient, begins to move with intent towards the wall. Urinsky cautiously approaches to investigate, but before he can fully comprehend what's happening, an alien arm bursts from the wall and gruesomely disembowels him. Laura talked with Colonel Carter to discuss the recent autopsy findings. The evidence points to a murder carried out by a human-alien hybrid, but the DNA does not match Eve's, and she has been under strict containment and surveillance. The scene then shifts to Press. He runs a private security business and is in the middle of demonstrating an anti-hostage attack squad to a crowd when Colonel Carter approaches him with urgent news. Another alien is on the loose, and they need Press's expertise to stop it.
Press, we got another fucking alien on the loose.
Get somebody else.
Initially, Press refuses, but the offer of $1 million, tax-free, quickly changes his mind. Colonel Carter takes Press to the lab where Eve is held. As soon as Press and Eve lock eyes, Laura steps in angrily, escorting him away. She explains that Eve is a more docile clone of Syl's, with her mating instincts suppressed and testosterone exposure limited. The Press is taken aback by Laura's presence in this high-stakes operation and comments on how the old Laura seemed to have more soul. Their exchange turns heated, but Colonel Carter intervenes, reminding them of their previous success in killing one of these aliens and urging them to do it again.
You killed one of these fucking alien things before, do it again.
After examining Urinsky's phone records, Press and Laura decide to visit Dr. Cromwell, the exiled scientist now residing in a mental institution. Cromwell reveals that years ago he was tasked with studying a Martian meteorite that had landed in Antarctica. The meteorite contained fossilized life forms from another galaxy. Cromwell hypothesized that Mars had been visited by alien species over 1 billion years ago, transforming it from a lush, vibrant planet into the barren wasteland it is today. When Cromwell learned about the Mars mission, he fervently warned against it. However, his warnings were met with dismissal, and he was fired from Stanford as a means to silence him. The harassment escalated to the point where Cromwell ended up in a physical altercation, breaking a Pentagon general's jaw, which led to his current incarceration.
I got into a fist fight with the Pentagon general. I broke his goddamn jaw.
Press and Laura relay Cromwell's alarming insights to Colonel Carter, speculating that the astronauts might have been contaminated by the Martian samples they brought back. Convinced by the severity of the threat, Colonel Carter agrees to start by investigating Patrick.
Test Patrick first. Yeah.
Patrick is on the verge of another illicit encounter when Press bursts through his front door. However, Patrick and his companion are nowhere to be found. Press and Laura realize Patrick isn't home and decide to check on the other astronauts, starting with Anne. Sensing imminent danger, they speed over to Anne's house. Just as they arrive, Anne and her husband are in the midst of their intimate moment. Suddenly, Anne's belly swells rapidly to full capacity and then bursts open. A horrifying alien creature inside her lunges a tentacle towards her husband's face, mutilating and killing him almost instantly. Press and Laura rush upstairs and burst into the room. Press quickly fires at the alien, while Laura deploys a gaseous weapon her lab had devised. Despite their swift actions, Anne has already succumbed to the alien infestation. Meanwhile, Dennis is enjoying a romantic boat date moments away from intimacy when he is abruptly interrupted and taken to the lab. There, his blood is tested while he undergoes interrogation. The investigators inquire about Anne's recent behavior, but Dennis insists she seemed perfectly normal. When he demands to know what happened to her, they break the devastating news, leaving him visibly shaken. The tension in the room escalates, nearly turning violent, but the test results come back negative, confirming Dennis is not infected.
5 seconds.
I didn't kill her.
3 seconds.
I didn't kill her! Wait!
Computer says normal, normal, normal. There is no sign of infection.
The next morning, Patrick awakens to a horrifying sight. A dead girl lies beside him, her stomach grotesquely split open, and a small toddler stands near the bed. Overcome with sickness and dread, Patrick knows what he must do. Grabbing a shotgun, he prepares for a grim task. Meanwhile, Dennis drives up to Patrick's house. As Patrick attempts to kill himself, blowing his brains out, his alien powers activate, and his head regenerates before Dennis's eyes. Dennis, horrified by what he witnesses, reports back to the lab, detailing the disturbing events. Realizing the gravity of the situation, he decides to join the effort to stop the alien calamity from spreading further. Patrick's botched suicide attempt extinguishes his remaining humanity, and he spirals into a violent spree, killing numerous women and amassing a disturbing number of children. Despite the chaos, he inexplicably manages to sustain them. Eve, telepathically linked to Patrick, feels every gruesome encounter he has. This connection prompts Colonel Carter and Laura to discuss Eve's latent telepathic abilities. They consider using radiation to unlock her suppressed alien side. Though Laura hesitates, aware of the agony it will cause Eve, Eve volunteers to undergo the procedure to help track Patrick.
I'm sorry. This is not what I intended. It's going to be very painful for you.
I want to help.
Once awakened, Eve's telepathic connection to Patrick intensifies, allowing her to witness his every action. She communicates with Press and Dennis as they close in on Patrick's location, a supermarket. Press urgently needs to know where the cereal aisle is located. Just as Patrick signs an autograph for a girl, he abruptly grabs her and drags her to his truck. Press and Dennis trail him closely. They approach a van rocking with activity. Press breaks the window only to realize it's the wrong van. Quickly regrouping, they locate the correct van and find Patrick mid-mating. Suddenly, Patrick connects telepathically with Eve, becoming aware of her presence. They share a brief moment during which Eve transmits her location in the lab. Patrick shoves his victim and steps out of the van, where Press and Dennis apprehend him. He feigns ignorance about anything alien-related as they drive him to the facility. Eve senses his approach, and as Patrick enters the building, he initially remains calm. However, once inside, he breaks free and searches for Eve. Eve begs Laura to open the door, but Laura refuses.
Has she been given any medication?
Let me out!
Yes, her usual dose.
Let me out, Laura!
I'm gonna double it.
Patrick bursts into the room, determined to reach Eve. They lock eyes, separated only by a thin glass door. Eve has a vision of them mating in their true alien forms. Patrick violently confronts Laura, demanding she release Eve, nearly killing her with his alien tongue. At the critical moment, Press arrives and sprays Patrick with a gas weapon, causing him to flee. Afterward, Dennis casts a gaze at Eve, who initially responds with lustful eyes before quickly becoming apathetic. Laura notices and explains that the aliens can detect genetic defects. Dennis has a recessive gene for sickle cell anemia, which is why he was spared from infection. The aliens are vulnerable to human diseases. Laura hypothesizes that they can use this weakness as a weapon.
Right. The alien DNA cannot cope with human genetic flaws. It has no defense against our diseases, and that might be our answer.
Meanwhile, Patrick returns to his secluded cabin in the woods to greet his children, but is intercepted by his father. Senator Ross tells Patrick that he knows what has happened and wants to help him. While the military wants Patrick dead, his father promises to protect him and ensure he gets the best treatment available. Overwhelmed, Patrick embraces his father and pleads for help. Suddenly, Patrick's inner alien awakens, and a tentacle violently pierces through his father's gut and out of his mouth. Patrick's eyes turn cold as he looks upon his offspring, ready to feed them. Back at the lab, Laura has synthesized a toxin using Dennis's blood designed to neutralize the aliens. Meanwhile, Patrick's cabin is in chaos. Patrick watches as one of his sons emerges from a cocoon. Press and Dennis gear up for the impending confrontation, selecting a pistol and a machete. As they prepare to depart, Eve escapes from the lab, displaying formidable strength. Although the military shoots her, her alien powers rapidly heal her wounds. She commandeers a car and heads directly to Patrick's cabin, with the group in pursuit. Upon arriving at the cabin, Eve heads straight for Patrick, and they begin to mate. Laura and Dennis enter the cabin, using the gas gun to destroy the cocoons, while Patrick and Eve engage in their alien mating. They shed their human forms, and Eve ensnares Patrick with her tentacles. Press arrives during their mating, aiming his gun at the structure they formed. Instead of shooting, he inexplicably asks Eve to step aside. Patrick, now a colossal alien male, emerges and quickly knocks Press and Dennis off their feet. Laura, desperate and seeing no other option, pleads with Eve to help them.
Eve, I know you're in there! Please help us! Please help us!
In a surprising move, she uses her alien abilities to sprout spikes from her back, impaling Patrick. Though wounded, Patrick shrugs off the attack and violently knocks her aside, resuming the mating ritual. Eve fights back, but Patrick transforms into a more powerful two-headed alien to subdue her. Tragically, he finishes the ritual, killing Eve in the process, leaving Laura devastated by her death. Reverting to his one-headed form, Patrick turns his aggression towards the group. He first targets Press, who fires his weapon, and Laura, who uses the gas spray, but both attacks prove ineffective. Dennis, thinking quickly, suggests using his blood as a weapon. Press stabs Dennis's leg with a pitchfork, coating the tips with Dennis's DNA. With a precise throw, Press hurls the pitchfork at Patrick, delivering a critical strike. The alien hybrid succumbs to the attack, slumping over and dying. In the aftermath, as medics arrive to tend to the fallen Eve and the injured Dennis, the group feels a sense of victory, knowing they have thwarted a major threat to humanity. Dennis, despite his injury, is in good spirits, grateful for the unexpected twist of his genetic defect that helped save the day. The movie concludes with a glimpse of Eve's abdomen getting bigger and the sound of something bursting through. A little kid is looking at this scene. And with that, the movie ends. We hope you enjoyed our recap. Watch our next videos on the screen, and don't forget for more amazing recaps. See you on the next one.